All right, guys. Hey, great to be with you. How many we have on the call right now?
You're 17 so far.
All right, cool.
Going on and off, but
yeah. All right, guys. Hey, good to be with you. Hey, I'm excited for today to be with you. And some of you I get to see a ton, and some of you I don't. So hope that you're having an extraordinary day and had a great weekend. And let's get rocking. Hey, just a couple of things, just because I haven't had the opportunity to do one of these of our live calls and coaching calls for several weeks. So just maybe a quick little update. In the midst of all of that, since I haven't been on here, I've actually had a back surgery and a hernia surgery, and I am doing great. And my wife Jennifer also had a back surgery. Hers was a little more serious. She actually was walking our dog and cracked her vertebrae and on her L5 and S1, if you're familiar with backs, and she is doing great. In fact, she's going to start coming back into the office just a little bit here starting this week, just depending on how she's feeling. But she's doing a lot better. But that was quite a back surgery. If you've ever had or know people have infusions, they can be quite excruciatingly painful in the recovery process. But also once it's done, it's always a good thing. All right. So with that being said, let's just talk a little bit about today's marketplace. One of the conversations that I've had with a lot of different people has been, George, where do you think the market's going? They'll ask, or hey, what do you think the market's going to be with all these different moments of inflation? And so I just want to visit with you just for a few minutes in relationship to what's going on in our marketplace. And I say marketplace, I'm just talking on a national level. Certainly most of our people who I believe are on this call are specifically from the Utah market or from the California market specifically. But let's just talk about the market in general, right? We've seen unprecedented since basically the 1970s was the last time that we saw such inflation rise in the way that it's rising. And the question really remains is exactly how is that going to impact, and how is that going to impact all of us, not only from a real estate standpoint, but from even our own home fronts. So just a couple of thoughts, right? We're seeing rising gas prices, which is the obvious. And, there's lots of finger pointing and blame as to how that is or isn't. I'm not going to get into the details of that, and I'm certainly not getting into the political points of it. But the fact is that inflation is real, and the prices are going up, specifically for gas. And what does that mean, right? What does that mean for housing? Well, what it means for housing is you're going to see a rise in cost. How do you protect yourself against the rising costs of inflation in the housing sectors? Well, you raise interest rates, right? And you start to see rates going up. And we're right now seeing rates anywhere between, depends on the day of the week, but right now anywhere between 4.5% to 5%. Now, I haven't seen them tip over 5%, but boy, they're right on the verge of 5% in some certain loan programs. So somewhere right there. Now, the question remains is, well, how high will they go? It's expected, and it's been said, that rates could go as high as 8%, which seems mind-blowing that they could go that high, but it's been said that they can go as high as 8% just to get it to where the inflation starts to calm down. So keep that in mind. The other component, though, is, well, wait a second here. If all this inflation is happening, how does it impact the real estate market? But before we jump to that, I just want to mention, how does it impact just the economy in general, right? How does it impact just normal everyday business? Aside from everything getting a little bit more expensive, or maybe even a lot more expensive, the sectors of what they believe in regards to technology, except for healthcare and real estate. But if we take technology sectors, we take other business sectors, they believe that, all the different things that I read and study, that all of them are going to be impacted, except for real estate specifically. And I say that with a little bit of caution, meaning that real estate will be impacted from the standpoint of its value. It will be impacted by the rates going up. But where it won't be impacted is that we can't cure the housing shortage. So if you look at this world that we live in the United States specifically, what you see is that there are over 12 million new households created every single year in the U.S. Now, I want to repeat that. 12 million new households are created in the U.S. every single year. we are creating, building, developing only about 7 to 8 million homes or residences for those 12 million households to be able to live in. So it's a very interesting time. No matter what the market is doing, no matter what it seems the economy is doing, whether inflation is rising or lowering, the reality is that housing still seems to be the bedrock, right, of our entire economy. And one of the challenges that we're seeing is that with rising prices, we're seeing a huge rise in the rents, and not only in rents of their cost of the rents, but also the vacancy rates across the entire country are basically less than 1% across the entire country. So it's a very interesting time for the standpoint of you as an agent, us as an organization, to say, okay, how do we navigate through these things? How do we move through these things? Now, you know I'm a huge proponent of talking about things that are within the control and the spectrum of our own lives. All the things that I've talked to you about so far: rising interest rates, shortages of inventory, inflation, from mortgage programs to mortgage rates, and to anything and everything dealing is really on the outside of us. So the question then is, what can you do? And it's often asked, this is a question that's often asked to a lot of different people. They say, well, man, with the scope of everything that's happening in the world today, how do we fix it? Well, how you fix it, right, from not only a political side, a civil side, a social side, a community side, a world side, a nation side, a neighborhood side, is that you rise up right where you are doing the right things. So I'm certainly going to encourage you from a civic and political and social side to get involved, but that's not what this call and this message is about. This message specifically is about, okay, now what does that mean in relationship to the economics of your own family and your own life, your own dreams, goals, and aspirations, and secondarily, what can you do in that realm? Well, I think it comes down to three core things, and I spoke a little bit about these earlier today. The first one is this, is that we have to be very problem-solving oriented, meaning great leaders make the money they make, earn the dollars they earn because they solve problems. And I remember listening to an interview of Jeff Bezos when he said, look, I've realized that I have just a few key decisions to make every single day. And he talked about getting proper rest. He talked about being not overworked, because he realized that the 2 or 3 or 4 decisions that he made every single day were going to be life-changing decisions for many, many people. And he took great stewardship and care to those decisions when he was constantly at the helm every single day, in some words, working as the CEO. So I say this to you from the standpoint of your own process, your own life, your own process of selling real estate. How are you dealing with this in relationship to being a problem solver? Are you part of the problem? Are you part of the people who are complaining? Are you whining? Are you victimizing? Are you blaming others? Are you pointing to all the things outside of you that are making it nearly impossible to have some level of normal, as we might think it could be in regards to real estate? Or are you looking within yourself? See, the challenge right now is that we've got a lot of people who are highly emotional and not very deep thinking. And that is a scary place to be. High levels of emotion and very little thinking. So if you can, some of you I know are taking notes, I'd encourage you to write this down. There are 3 types of thinkers, I believe, that exist in the world. Now, could you expand that? Of course you could. But if I was to summarize it, it is in these 3 areas of life. Number 1 type of thinker is a non-thinker. Someone who kind of puts their head in the sand and doesn't think much about anything. Just kind of goes with the flow and just whatever. And you say, well, go with the flow, that's a good thing. Well, is it always? Sometimes swimming up the current is the way to fix the problem. It's not always down through the flow of the water. Sometimes it's swimming upstream. And when we are non-thinkers, when we are not meditating, pondering, praying, thinking, evaluating, when we are not doing that, there are major problems that occur. So again, 3 types of thinkers. Number 1, non-thinkers. Number 2 type of thinker is a small thinker. Someone who often is the person who thinks small, who's often critical, who's often plays the role of victim and blame. The person who often looks around for other people to solve the problem because they're not willing to solve it themselves because they haven't thought long and hard about how to do that. I want you to think about that for a moment. Is your thinking too small? Are you thinking large enough, big enough? Are you thinking in ways that are just so small and insignificant they really never will solve the problems? Right? Are you just trying to survive? Are you just trying to get by? That's what you consider small thinking. Now, the 3rd type of thinker, which I believe is the best thinker, it is a big thinker. And for me, a big thinker isn't some grandiose thinker who has no concept of reality. I'm talking about someone who is a big thinker who thinks about solving the problems at hand. Look, those who make the most money are the people who solve the problems. So if you aren't thinking how to solve the problems, it's unlikely that you're a big problem solver. Therefore, you're not probably a big income earner. Now, that's not a criticism. I'm not trying to be rude to you. I want you to really consider the importance of thinking. Are you a small thinker, a non-thinker, or a big thinker? And when you think big, you think about how to solve the problems. Now, you could do all of us a favor, and most importantly yourself, if you took all of that thinking and you started to think to yourself, where should I put all this? All these thoughts, all these ideas, all these resolutions, all these revolutions, right? All of these solutions to my thinking as I come up with problems or consider problems at hand within my life, within my business, within our communities that we live in, to rise up through all of that and to really think and to take out a journal and to keep track of and to truly come to understand the way you think. Is it not interesting to you at all that throughout history, how about this one? 3 major cultures, religions, and people came from 5 books that people wrote. Now, whether you believe in the books is not relevant to me, but I can tell you this much. 5 books created an entire saga for the last several thousand years. 5 books. And the books I'm talking about, Genesis, Exodus, Deuteronomy, Leviticus, and I'm missing one, and Numbers. Those 5 books in the good book created 3 major religions, 3 major cultures, and 3 major groups of people that identify themselves. Judaism, Islam, and Christianity. 3 of them. They cover essentially the entire planet with those 3 cultures and religions that came from 5 books. Now you say, well, why are you talking about this? Because 5 books shaped the course of history that we live in today. Now the question I would ask you then, are you writing down your own words, your own thoughts, your own ideas, your own solutions, your own problems, and then coming up with those solutions, those ideas, those moments of wisdom? Are you doing that? Because journal writing is a sign as to whether or not you are a big, deep thinker. If you are a thinker, you are writing. And if you are not writing, you are not thinking. Because it requires you to think. It requires you to expand beyond what you're walking around kind of just mumbling in your head. Do you realize the average human being has over 75,000 thoughts a day? And yet only 10,000 of those 75,000 thoughts are new ideas or new thoughts. So 65,000 thoughts you think today were the same thoughts that you thought yesterday. And how do you change the way you think? You start thinking, pondering, praying, meditating, and writing. And that's how you become a great thinker. It's taking moments and just being silent. Guys, there is so much noise out there, from the media to social media to the news to other people who are telling you what you should believe, what you should think, and how you should be. Have you ever considered the simple idea? Have you ever considered the simple idea of just taking a step back and asking yourself, what do I believe? And write it down. Not what someone else believes. Now, here's the deal. You may believe exactly what someone else believes. You may believe it. But have you taken the time to absolutely ask yourself if you believe what someone else believes? Look, all around us in business, in social circles, in civic circles, and in religion, you see everyone trying to tell everyone what they should believe. You need to come to conclusions as to what you believe. And what you believe will then become the solutions to the problems and the challenges. Like, what do you believe about hard work? What do you believe about commitment? What do you believe about work ethic? What do you believe in regards to working your tail off so that you can live the life in regards to what you see and what you dream about? That's being a big thinker. That's what big thinking is all about. But when we take a step back and we aren't thinking, and we're pointing, and we're blaming, and we're victimizing, and although you may have everybody to blame, and you may have everybody to be a victim by, the reality is it still doesn't change anything. Sure, you're vindicated by the words that you say, but it doesn't change anything. Even if you're blaming everybody, even if you're a victim of so many different circumstances and individuals, it still doesn't change anything. The only way your world changes is if you change. So if you're seeing changes within the market, changes within the economy of the U.S., changes within the real estate market specifically, changes within the way homes are being sold, you have to take a step back and recognize that if you want things to change, you have to change. What we know is simple. Change is inevitable. Progress is not. Progress requires you to think. Progress requires you to analyze. Progress requires of you to take time to write and develop goals, plans, and schedules that meet your needs to create the life that you're destined to create. That's what great thinkers do. That's what the big thinkers do. They craft and create a life that is purposeful, that they designed on purpose because they could. Now look, when you look at market conditions, you look at the lack of thinking or the non-thinking or the small thinking that's going on in our world today. And then you top it off with work ethic, which is simply we have forgotten how to work hard. I started talking about this months ago. But I'll have to tell you, I've gotten pretty fired up as of recently that, look, you can have the best thinking in the world. You can have the best strategies in the world. You can have the best systems in the world. You can have the best opportunities in the world. But nothing changes if you do not work. Hard work cannot be overestimated. Work ethic, the way in which you move your life, the ethics of your life. Do you work hard? Are you prospecting, talking to enough people? Are you doing the things that will require the most of you? In today's marketplace, it's not enough to do the 3 ways that you can consider getting business. You can go and wait for it and just simply hope that people call you. But as we know, hope is not a strategy for business. Just waiting for the phone to ring, waiting for someone to reach out to us is not a way. Hoping and waiting that someone responds to our great social media posts and maybe they reach out to us. You may be the beneficiary of a few people reaching out, but it is not a way to predict your business waiting for it. You cannot duplicate your business waiting for it. The second way, of course, is you can go out and buy it. And you see agents doing that all the time. They go out and buy Zillow leads. They go buy pay-per-click. They go buy business from the aggregators. And I'm not saying that you can not do that. But what I am saying is it can get very expensive. What I am saying is that you better be really good at it. But I can tell you this much, even if that's the way you're buying your business, number 3 is the only way you really secure that business. And here's number 3. Number 3 is you go out and you get the business. So you can either wait for it, you can go buy it, or you can go get it. And if you will go get the business, that means knock on more doors. That means calling your centers and sphere of influence. That means prospecting on a daily basis and focusing on setting an appointment every single day. I will never forget my conversations with two wonderful agents. One of them being April Oakes in Utah, another one being Kathleen Bruno in California. When I used to sit with them, or we'd be on a phone talking, and I'd be chanting this same message, you need to set an appointment every day. I will never forget Kathleen Bruno saying to me, I really at that moment thought you were nuts. Like, how can you possibly believe that someone can set an appointment in real estate every single day? And yet, today she does it. Today she makes well over in excess of $1 million+ a year. Today, I look at an April Oakes, who more so said, I didn't know if it was possible, and yet today knows that it is. And last week, I watched her set 4 appointments out of 5 days. And they were 4 solid listing appointments. The difference of what you choose to focus on and how you do your business, whether you go out and get it, whether you go buy it, or whether you wait for it, is a distinct difference into whether you're going to make it through all of the craziness that our economy and our market in real estate and outside of it will make it to where you survive. Gang, I'm just going to encourage you at a mega extraordinary high level. If you are not prospecting consistently right now, you are on the pathway to getting out of this business. You will treat this business like a pastime and a hobby, and hopefully once in a while someone sends business to you. If you are struggling and thinking that the answers are all outside of you, from commission structures to, other people not doing what they should be doing, to your clients not closing, to, hard to get an offer accepted, look at the basis and the sources of your business. Ask yourself the question, what's a guaranteed sale today? A guaranteed sale today is taking a listing. A guaranteed sale today is taking a listing. Look, across the board to all managers and to all agents and to anyone in the sound of my voice, it should today be inexcusable that you are not spending, whether you are a buyer's agent on a buyer team, if you love buyers, if you're an individual agent doing your own business, but majority of it is buyers, it is inexcusable. And you are asking for massive challenges if you do not spend at least 1 hour a day focusing on taking a listing. Look, for every buyer team leader that I'm speaking to every buyer team that I'm speaking to, I am asking them to consider this at a high level. Because the challenge is, you could have 10 buyers, but the fact is you may only get a few of them under contract and get a sale. Take 10 listings, you have 10 guaranteed sales. So look, you keep working every single buyer you have. But in the same sentence, you start spending at least a minimum of 1 hour a day trying to take a listing. And if you will do so, you will set yourself up for a grand future. Look, the writing is on the wall, gang. Over the next 2 to 5 years, the dynamics of a buyer's agent are going to change dramatically in this industry of real estate. You have got to get more serious than you ever have in the history of your career of how to figuring out how to take a listing at a high level. Figuring out how to dominate the ability to take a listing. If you want to take on the fact of more buyers, go take more listings. You want to get more deals accepted, take more listings. You want to simplify your life, take more listings. But there will be a requirement. The requirement of taking listings is doing things that we often don't like to do. It means things like you might be rejected more often. You might have to practice more. You might have to speak to more people. You might have to work harder. But the fact is that you will gain a skill set that will set you up for the rest of your life. So I've said for this for years. Write this down if you're taking notes. Let buyers finance. Listen to this closely. Let buyers finance your ability to master the time it takes to take listings. The time, right? It doesn't mean don't go sell homes to buyers. What it means is in the meantime, while you're doing that, take time to figure out how to take listings. See, the most successful buyer's agents that I know, or originally started off focusing on buyers, are people like a Chad Wagstaff, who has this incredible balance. A guy making $400,000+ a year, working still on a great team and associating himself with the #1 team in the world for Century 21. The #1 team in the world, Chad Wagstaff, working closely with Dave Parker. And what does he do? He has right today a great balance of 50% buyers, 50% sellers. I can take people on Austin Kale's team. Some of you know him, a top 10 team in the world today. And Aaron Christensen, I still remember sitting at my desk talking with Aaron and watching the progression of his career. The first year it was 100% buyers. The second year was about 25% listings. Today he stands associating with Austin Kale's as an extremely powerful leader on his team and has a solid 50-50 ratio between listings and buyers. So do not get off this call thinking that I've told you don't ever work with buyers. What you should get off this call thinking, though, is I better figure out how to take listings or I'm going to have some major problems in my future. You must figure out how to take a listing. You must figure out how to take a listing, set an appointment for a listing, follow up with the listing, a masterful presentation, and absolutely guarantee your future. Not now, but forever. Not just for a few months, forever. And I can promise you, gang, that if you will come down to understanding the market, if you will come down to recognizing that you're a big thinker, and if you're a big thinker, take the time to think, ask yourself questions. How to do something? How do I become this? What must I do? How, what, and who? Who must I become? What must I do? How must I do it? Not the why is this changing? Why is this not fair? That's all victim talk. Now, is there points to ask why? Sure. But most of the time not. Ask how. Ask what. Ask who I must become to earn a certain. Who must you become to list a certain number of homes this year? Who must you become? See, that's what big thinking does. And you take your journal out and you start crafting, not only with your managers, but if you're being coached, right? I mean, look, take the time to understand what it takes to win at the game of real estate today. Look, your stewardship may be just a little bit different than mine. Right? You have the stewardship of your own life, you have the stewardship of your family, and of course you have the stewardship of your clients. I have the stewardship of you. You may say, well, the state of Utah and the state of California believe my stewardship is to the clientele, which of course it is within reason, right? But ultimately my stewardship resides in you. It's getting you to focus on the right stuff. That's what great leaders do. And I could stand here and lie to you and act like it's all going to be fine. If you just keep going down the path you're going, talking to 3 or 4 or 5 people a day, waiting for some business to come in, hoping and praying that your sphere and some social media works, and maybe you'll sell a few more buyers this year, but that would be a lie. And I have a great stewardship and responsibility to convey the right message of truth to you. And the truth is that you need to talk to more people. The truth is you need to think bigger and longer and more intensely. The truth is that you need to become better at what you do. You need to raise your standards and your skill sets. No matter how long you've been in this business, you need to rise above it. And you need to get better in every angle. You need to get better in your skill sets, your mindsets, your personal disciplines. You may say, well, gosh, in closing, I'll just say this. You may say, well, George, I don't want to do all that. And what I want to tell you is this. It doesn't matter how you feel. It does not matter how you feel. If you're doing your job, you don't focus on how you feel. You do what needs to be done. If you go to the gym, if your only focus is to focus on how painful it is to lift weights or to do some cardio or to do some planks or wall sits or lift some weight, if your only focus is that, well, then I can promise you, you're probably not going to be working too hard at the gym. But when you go to the gym, if you could focus on how great you will feel after, how good you will look after, how much more better you will be after, well, then you're going to be pretty darn excited to go to the gym. If your focus is how hard it is to prospect, how difficult it is, how you don't want to do it, how you wish you could be doing something different, then I can promise you your prospecting will not be very effective. But if you focus on your prospecting, saying, I'm going to master this so I can live my life the way I'm destined to do so. I'm going to master this prospecting process of setting an appointment every single day because I know that if I do, I can live my dreams, be the father, the mother, be able to say yes more to my children, to provide a greater life for my future, to protect what I've created, to pay off all my debts, to put myself in a place where production and profitability and success is yours. That's what is required when you do these things. When you do the things you're supposed to do, despite how you feel. Do not get caught in the trap of only doing the things you feel like doing. If you do that, that is the pathway to poverty. Let me repeat that. If you only do the things you feel like doing, it is the pathway to poverty. Those who have succeeded at the highest levels, who have left clues everywhere, and the clues that they have left have been the fact that there will be more days that you do not feel like doing your job than days that you do. So if that's the case, let's just stop worrying today about how we feel. Stop worrying about whether you feel like prospecting. Stop worrying about whether you feel like coming into work today. See, here's the interesting thing. One of the greatest and most beautiful moments of life is that you're an independent contractor. You can do whatever you want. And you know what else? One of the most tragic and horrible things in your life is that you're an independent contractor. Because no one's there to fire you. No one's there to say, if you don't do this, we don't pay you. See, you can get away with not working today. You can get away without prospecting. You can get away without practicing. You can get away without doing lead follow-up. You can get away with not calling your sphere, your COI, or your database. You can get away with all of it because you don't have to do it. And I loved what one of our great escrow officers, Crystal Cruz, said today. She said, we have to come from a place of gratitude and recognize we get to do these things. Remember this, you don't have to do anything. You don't have to do anything. You get to. You get to be in this business of real estate. You get to play at a high level of success and possibility. You get to do this. You don't have to do anything. You don't have to put in the hours. You don't have to prospect. But those who figure out that even when the days they don't feel like doing things, they do them, are the people who get rich in this business. But it's just not the economics they get rich with. They get rich with their leadership. They get rich in their associations. They get rich in their skill sets. They get rich in the disciplines that they've operated in. And all of a sudden, when we ask the question, it becomes the most important question. Who must I become? Well, you have to become someone who thinks, someone who works hard, who's highly disciplined, who pays the price, who does the things that are necessary so that you can have everything that this business is willing to offer you. My promise to you, gang, is that if you will put forth the efforts to prospect, if you will put forth the efforts to work hard, if you will figure out how to take a listing, if you will spend at least 1 hour a day figuring out how to take a listing, 1 hour a day, and you keep doing everything else that you're doing that's good, but at minimum 1 hour a day, you focus on taking that listing. I'm telling you, everything that you dream about, everything that you want, I promise you will come true. Remember this. I know that it's not an easy path even right now. The market is so good, it's not good. Make sense? So good, it's not good. I said this almost 1.5 years to 2 years ago. I said, this market's going to get so good, it's not going to be good. And here we are. So again, Great leaders, in closing, great leaders. And if you're a great leader, this is what you do. You are the CEO of your life, the chief executive officer of your life, your business, and you have a stewardship. And in that stewardship, great leaders solve problems. And if you want to make a fortune, be great at solving problems. Good decisions. And even if you make a bad one, because you're in the mode of making decisions, you change it immediately and you get back on the mark. And I can promise you that if you do this, everything you desire out of this business will come true. And if not, you're going to fight it. You're going to fight the current, and it will be for an ever uphill fight or swimming against the current the rest of your career, because you will be at the dictation of hoping that the market is good, hoping that inflation doesn't get crazy, hoping that they accept your offer over the other 20 or 30 that are being presented. Let's move from hope to a strategy. Let's move from hope and to create disciplines that make it to where you're doing your job so well that hope or the luck of the draw becomes your good fortune, but not your strategy. All right? Have an extraordinary day, gang. Remember, nothing about this business you can't learn. Nothing about this business you can't do. So go do it and live the life that you're destined to live. Live an extraordinary life of thinking big, commitment to your goals and your dreams, working your butt off, working hard, and doing the things that are necessary to solve the problems of your life. And you solving the problems of the lives of others will make you a very rich individual. And that is my hope for you. That is what I am hopeful of, because I can't make you do it. But I hope that you will, because it's in your hands to do so. Have a great day, guys. I hope that this is helpful. Know how much I cherish our friendship and our relationships, and recognize I'm this blunt, this bold, because I know that there are even greater challenges coming ahead. And if you don't fix the pathway of which and way you're doing business today, you're going to have some real challenges that I don't want you to ever be faced with. Fix them now until you're forced to fix them, or you're even forced out of this business. All right, gang? Have an extraordinary day. We'll talk soon. Bye-bye.
Thank you, George.